Hello everybody, my name is Xanity109 and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look into the processes of making a build in Minecraft, the psychology and the art behind it. A lot of people struggle with building in Minecraft, even if they watch videos on YouTube, because the videos they give you tips on what to do to improve your builds, but they don't teach you why. So today in this video, my goal is to teach you what the actual processes behind making a good Minecraft build are and how to improve on that. In front of me, we have these two buildings. I'm guessing that everybody has built one of these in their Minecraft career, a wood box or a dirt box at some point in their life. These are the stock standard first night shelters that everybody seems to build. A lot of people don't ever actually make it past a building like this, though. And so today, we're going to be discussing how you can take something like this and turn it into something that'll blow your friends away. Let's go. And hey, really quickly, before we begin the video, if you like what you've seen here today and want to see more, or are interested in checking out more of my other content or me making more content, please make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment with your thoughts or build ideas for future build videos. Thanks a lot. We're going to start by taking a look at a color wheel. I know circles don't exist in Minecraft, so bear with me. The color wheel is the first basic concept of art. Every piece of artwork is composed of color, and it's the building block for everything that you're going to be doing. The color wheel is composed of primary and secondary colors, red, blue, and yellow for the primary, and purple, orange, and green for the secondary. Now, if you'll notice, the colors that complement each other are diagonally or straight across from each other on the color wheel. Those are the best colors that complement themselves. It's like red and green. That's considered Christmas colors. They are across from each other and they go together pretty well. The apples to apples card game that really takes effect on that. It works with those. And various different other logos and stuff like that. They use combinations of colors that work well together. There's also tetradic colors where it's in a triangle. So for example, orange, green, and purple, and blue, yellow, and red, which happen to be the primary and secondary colors. But it also works for, say, cyan, yellow, and purple. It's understanding the color wheel is going to be your first basic concept into understanding your build. Looking at these color combinations, we're going to highlight the blue and orange color combination here for a second. Those two colors, I said they work really well together, and we have some evidence of that within Minecraft itself, which we find here in the trial chambers. The oxidized combined with the non-oxidized copper, the orange and the blue, creates a stunning visual contrast. They stand out from each other, yet they work with each other so well. It adds a lot of character to this structure and gives it a lot of it stands out a lot from most other things. The colors work together. That's part of why, even though it's only one type of block, it works really well because the colors stand out from each other. In addition to our primary and secondary colors on the color wheel, there are a couple other colors that we need to consider. Our neutrals, black, gray, and white, as well as brown. These colors don't really, they fit with all of these. They pretty well blend with everything here. Using stone for the grays often works with just about any block in Minecraft when you combine them all in a build. These blocks are kind of your gentler undertones to all the color that complement it and make the color pop out. Without any duller colors, you never have the bright ones standing out. Another important thing to consider when choosing the color for your build is using tints and shades. Tints going from your normal color and transitioning into white, and shades going from your normal color and going into black. Instead of using multiple colors in your build, if you want to focus on one color and use different shades and tints, different lighter or darker colored variations of it, that also works really well for a build. Like if you have your build with red being like the darkest main focal point and you slowly transition it to white, or red being your lightest point in the build and it transitions into black, that also works really well. Something else important to consider when choosing the color of your build. I recommend quickly Googling the different colors and how different colors associate with different feelings and make people feel. If you want your build to give off a cozy vibe or a dark vibe or whatever kind of vibe, I recommend picking colors that not only go with your build, but also that correlate with those feelings psychologically to help people get immersed into the environment of your build. A build isn't just a build, it's an environment. It's something that you're in, that you're walking around and exploring. So you want your environment and like the aesthetic of your build to psychologically associate in the viewer's brains with the feelings that you want to convey using color. Moving into one of my creative building worlds, I want to walk through some of the builds that I've made in the past and explain and look at the color theory that I was discussing earlier a little bit more in depth in some of my own builds. Looking at this one that I built a while ago, there's some lighter tones, warmer tones of blocks. The roof being orange and blue like we discussed with the copper contrasting each other on the color wheel, and yellow over here as an added splash of brightness. Something else I would like to discuss with the build, the yellow accents, drawing in, putting detailed three-dimensional accents on your builds in a different color helps draw your eye. It helps bring the shape out in your build and gives it depth. These windows taking a couple blocks in width just to add more dimension to your build, the arches and everything. They add dimension. One other thing I would like to touch on is where it draws the eye. When you look at this build from the ground, you're drawn upwards to the point on the tower. You're drawn towards these different brighter colored arches and features. You're drawn towards them. And as you go up and go onto the inside, you are drawn towards the carpet, the brighter colors. You walk in here, the amethyst and the flowers catches your eye as brighter colors. These different things, they serve to draw the eye. Drawing the eye is something very important in a Minecraft build. Getting the people that are viewing your build to look and see what you want them to see, just as any art form does. It's the same with like painting and drawing in the real world. You have to focus and kind of make the audience see the vision you want them to see, draw the eye. If you're not very good at building or like covering certain parts of a build, like the sides just kind of blank, then add features like the chimney to draw your eye. Add a greenhouse on the back to draw your eye. So that the audience, yes, they see that, but they don't internally register that it is just blank because they're looking at these other things on your build. It's a finite process, but it can be achieved by anybody with practice. Moving on, I want to talk about the processes of build theory in this room on the interior of a building. This is my Armadillo Cafe that I built. Just looking at some of this stuff, the lines in the lightning rods, and then the line created by the trapdoors. Lines are also a big leading factor in how people look at your builds. They see the lines as guiding points. The chain with the sign hanging down, it draws your eye up to there. The bright color of the text drawing your eye. And then the subtle accents of green in the background. They're contrast against both the wall and the copper. Like these tables, differentiating from the floor and the wall, they stick out because they're built of a different material. The lamp here, built with the dragon egg and the ochre frog light. Yes, I forgot the name for a second. It's a brighter color. You look at it. It attracts your eye as you move through the build. And all this stuff, the little details, all of it, it draws your eye, and it's about making your audience see what they want you to. When you enter into this room, you're drawn towards this way based on the carpet. It kind of pulls you around, and the arch, the colorful arch using the red sandstone and the acacia wood, it draws you over here once you enter the build, drawing you to the eye spot. This is where the build is directed at, wanting you to see the ordering counter as you enter the cafe I built. Oh crap. Moving over here to this bank that I built. The room we were just in is like the upper floor of the bank. But the statues outside with the gold, and then seeing the darker tones of the dried kelp blocks that are also a shade of blue, a darker shade. I'm using tints and shades here, different colors of this like bluish green color in this build to add pops. The darker spots pop, the lighter spots in the prismarine pop. You see them. The quartz as a neutral color, adding a lot of contrast here at the desk in the bank. The paintings with the little splashes of color in the back. And then moving into the back room of the bank, different things, the wood features, the iron bars, and iron trap doors. They just kind of add a pop. They draw your eye. You look at them rather than just the plain backdrop of the walls. But interestingly enough, the stripe down the dried kelp block also adds contrast. You see the lines in the walls, and it just adds some visual stimulation for your eye to look at. It helps your eye look at the build more clearly. The beacons and the gold up here, adding some extra details. Looking at this flower bed, even the different colors of flowers, they kind of draw you towards the middle. The lines in the trap doors facing inwards toward these plants draw you into the middle of this flower bed. The building process, once thought through, is not really that complicated. It's about making the people viewing the build see what you want them to see, drawing their eye where they need it to be. And if you do that, then I mean, walking down this street here, like, your eye goes over to the portal, and then you keep walking, and it goes over here, and it goes to the flowers, and it goes to the copper here. You never actually bother to notice how plain and boring the path looks, because you're too busy, you're distracted by all these other things on the side as we walk down this path. Another thing you can do to build, this one on a different creative world that I've built, you can add different layers in different colors, the green leading into the white leading into the pink, but all of it is framed with the same block, dark oak wood, with different spikes and different trapdoors and details. Some of this, the arches here, this three-dimensional, this kind of curving, the green being inwards from the dark oak support beams, the depth that creates, and then the spikes here along the tower, this ring of not lightning rods, frog lights. It creates depth, and the flag and all these different elements on here. It creates texture. This is, in my opinion, the perfect blend of texture and three-dimensional depth in a build. It's important trying to find the balance to blend texture and then your three-dimensional, like your depth of the build. It's a fine line. Certain builds need certain amounts of texture, and other builds need more three-dimensional details to pop out. I want to bring you guys into that a little bit more, so we're going to cut, and I'm going to show you some more detailed clips of that. And here we are in a creative copy of my survival world, where I'm going to talk about texture versus dimension. Now, I want to focus on this building right here, one of my taverns. This building lacks texture. There's not much texture in it. Just enough variation in the stone and detailing in the wood to make it visually interesting. But we're going to look at the depth of this build. We've got the first layer, which is the framing, which is inset from the edge of the roof. And then we've got the windows, which are further inset into the wall, which is inset from the framing. It kind of sinks inwards, and the lines of it sinking inward draw your eye inwards. All the dimension leaves enough visual interest that you don't really need that much texture. where we look at this small building right here, and there's not much visual, or not visual, there's not much dimension in it, leaving blank walls. If these logs were sticking out and there were a little bit of an arch between them, it would add a lot more visual interest to this build. Whereas the logs just, they make it look flat and boring. It's not interesting. Now moving on to an example of a build that has too much texture, or almost too much texture, and not enough detail dimensionally, is the Citadel over here. With this build, I focused heavily on a gradient going from black to white at the top, using excessive amounts of different types of blocks to create the color blending. And it looks fine as it is, without that much dimension to it, because of all the detail brought through the texture. However, if I were to go through and add a lot of arches and framing and depth to this, all of that detail combined with the texture that already exists would overpower the build and make it look sloppy. The key is finding a balance. And if you do put the extra depth details on, like these balconies, or this little defensive thing here, and the arch around the portcullis here, don't add texture to the details on the outside of a building that already has a lot of texture, because these pop out. Your eye looks at this, you look at this, it pops. It pops the entrance to this fortress out by being a little bit of plain solid color in a build that doesn't really have that much. Same with moving on here. This and the roofs, they stand out on the inside because their color, it's a flat color in a build that's constantly changing what color it is. And that's the interesting thing that you got to try and get a grasp on. Your balance between color and texture and the amount of depth that is in your build. It's a difficult thing to consider, and it differs for every person. Every person builds differently. But once you kind of find your balance in that field of depth versus texture, your builds are really going to level up, and it's really going to start impacting how you build, and you're going to start seeing a lot better results, and you're going to be a lot happier with the builds that you create. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe, and hopefully what we've covered today will help you to improve your Minecraft builds and think a little bit more before building so that it turns out fantastic. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.